Warm greetings to everyone. Today we are here to present mass holding supply chain effect in 2022 during the Sri Lanka's economic crisis and learn about building supply chain resilience. I am Dinesha and I am here joining with my team Anurag, Ria, Kaushalya, Yuvraj and Tuli. So moving to the first slide, Sri Lanka is a small island in South Asia. When it comes to the mass holding, it was founded in 1987 by the Amalin brothers. And over the past 3 decades, it has grown into one of the leading influential apparel manufacturers in the world. Currently, mass holding is one of the most important players in Sri Lanka's economy. The apparel industry in the country's large export sector, and it makes up 40 to 50% of foreign exchange earning, and mass alone contributes around 10% of total export. The company employs over 100,000 people worldwide, with the majority in the Sri Lanka. It is trusted partner for the brands like Nike, Adidas, Victoria's Secrets, and many more. By delivering high quality, ethically manufactured product, Mars positioning Sri Lanka as a hub for responsible apparel production. So, Mars Holding is not just company, it's pillar of the Sri Lanka's economy, driving export, employment and global reputation as well. In 2022, Sri Lanka faced one of the most severe economic crises in the history. The country defaulted on $55 billion which foreign debt, which triggered a shortage of foreign exchange reserves. As a result, there were daily power cuts lasting 8 to 10 hours, severe disrupting industries and households. Inflation soared to over 50%. At the same time, political instability grew. Mass protests erupted across the country, eventually leading to the collapse to the government. And also, I am from the Sri Lanka by myself, and during that time, I was living there. So I experienced Faithland, the 8 hours power cut, and lack of the fuel, and even shortage of the food. So it was a difficult situation, and it showed me how deeply national crises can affect both people's daily life and supply chains of major companies like mass holding. So far, I have covered the background of the context of the presentation, and to move forward with the supply chain model which is used by the mass holding, I will hand it over to the Kaushalya. Thank you.
Thank you, Dinesha. I'm Kaushalya. Now let's move on to the discussion of the supply chain management model of mass holdings. Mass holding has built one of the most integrated supply chain in Sri Lankan apparel industry. It's been at the head office in Colombo and the innovation center in Nugegoda, where leadership and research drive in the product's idea. These innovations flow into around 20 owned factories in Sri Lanka, supported by a few strategic third-party units. Globally, Mars operates 52 factories across 17 countries, but Sri Lanka remains the core of operation with the highest concentration of own units. From manufacturing, products move into mass logistic hub in Katunayake Free Trade Zone, the price shift distribution center located near Colombo International Airport. This hub manages warehousing, customs, and international shippings, ensuring fast clearance for exports. Over 90% of mass products is exported oriented, supplying world-renowned brands such as Nike, Adidas, Victoria's Secrets, Gap Lululemon, and Mars Spaces. Next, goods are routed through three regional distribution centers, which center products into different custom pathways. Amante retail store with a presence in Sri Lanka and India. Online retail platforms reach global customers and corporate contracts supply uniform and specialized apparel to institutions. Although export dominate, mass maintain a limited local retail presence through brands like Amante, Utilimo, Odeli, and Mass Actives. Locally sales are relatively small service mainly for brand build and testing new products. Supporting this flow are strategic warehouse zone. Tulhiriapo lodgeries and support were Pandura and Kogalapur coastal storage near the Colombo port, and Horana and Pannala port quickly dispatched to Kattunayake. Finally, Mars integrate a circular recycling ecosystem into its supply chain. This includes textile to textile regeneration, partnerships in warehouse waste upcycling, and sustainability pilot like the Ocean Stainer in Colombo. This company ambition goal zero waste to landfill by 2025, returning product waste into valuable resource. In short, mass supply chain is a closed loop system from research and manufacturing through logistics and exports to retail the recycling. It's globally in reach anchor in Sri Lanka and built on innovation, efficiency, and sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you, Kaushalya. I'm Ria. The 2022 Sri Lanka's economic crisis disrupted mass holdings that made impact on its operation, financial, economic, and workforce challenge. I will discuss further the operational impact of Sri Lanka economic crisis in mass holding. This crisis outlines several disruptions affecting a company's operations, likely in the context of economic or geopolitical instability. Here's a breakdown of each point and its implication: factory operation, fuel shortages, power cuts, supply chain disrupted, and its impact globally. Factory operation: the closure of Mihintali factory indicates a significant downsizing of strategic shift. Factory closure often result in job losses, reduced production capacity, and potential supply chain gaps. The mergers of two factories suggest consolidation to reduce cost and improve efficiency. While it may streamline operation, it can also disrupt workflows and employee morale. For fuel shortages, fuel prices raises by 150%, a dramatic increase that likely strains transportation, logistics, and energy costs. Resulting shortages make it harder to move goods, power machinery, or maintain consistent operation. For the power cuts, 8 to 12 hours per day, severe electricity outages hinder manufacturing, communication, and digital infrastructure. This level of disruption can paralyze productivity and delay deliveries. Supply chain disruption: import clearance delay 15 to 20 days versus 5 to 7 days. Customs or port inefficiency are slowing down the flow of materials. This affects inventory levels, production timeliness, and customer satisfaction. For the global impact, must downsize Haiti operation by 20%, reflects a broader strategic retreat of cost-cutting measure in international markets. Merged two Indian factories, again a sign of consolidation, possibly due to similar pressures as in Sri Lanka. This ends my presentation for operational impact.
Thank you, Ria. I will take over from here. My name is Yuvraj Datta. Let's begin by examining the financial impact on Mass Holdings, a company that has long stood as a pillar of Sri Lanka's apparel industry. In the first half of 2023, Mars experienced an 18% decline in export revenue, a sharp contraction that translated into an estimated loss of 150 to 200 US dollars in apparel orders. To put this into perspective, Mars's pre-crisis revenue hovered around $2.2 billion dollars in the financial year 2020. The crisis year brought a 10 to 15% drop, pushing revenues closer to 1.9 to 2 billion dollars. Despite these setbacks, Mars continued to pay salaries during the crisis, demonstrating a commitment to its workforce even amid financial strain. Now, let's widen the lens to understand the economic impact on both Mars Holdings and Sri Lanka's broader economy. As the largest apparel exporter, Mars observed a significant share of the national downturn. Sri Lanka's apparel export fell by 18% in the first half of 2023, leaving 30% of the production capacity idle. In response, Mars shifted 10 to 20% of its order to neighboring countries like India and Bangladesh. But this wasn't just a matter of lost orders. Mars also faced rising input costs, weakened global demand, and squeezed margins. Compounding these pressures was the national inflation rate, which surged past 50% in 2022, driving up operational cost and eroding profitability. This led to a final and perhaps most critical insight: the vicious cycle between Sri Lanka's economic crisis and Mars Holdings. As the country's largest apparel manufacturer and exporter, Mars is deeply intertwined with the national economy. When Sri Lanka suffers economically, Mars feels the shockwaves. Through inflation, currency instability, and reduced global competitiveness, but the cycle doesn't end there. When Mars struggles, the country loses export revenues, employment stability, and investor confidence. This interdependence creates a feedback loop, a vicious cycle where each downtown reinforces the other. In closing, understanding this cycle is essential not just for diagnosing the problem, but for designing resilient strategies. Mass Holding isn't just a company, it's a reflection of Sri Lanka's economic pulse. Breaking this cycle will require coordinated efforts in policy, innovation, global positioning. Thank you.
Thank you, Yuvraj. So, hello everyone. My name is Tulip Sengupta, and in this part of my presentation, I will talk about the workforce challenges faced by MS Holding during the Sri Lankan economic crisis 2022. So, the crisis created significant disruptions in the apparel industry, and because MAS is one of the largest employers in Sri Lanka, the impact on its workforce was substantial as well. So first of all, let's talk about job security threatened issue. So the first major challenge was job security. As global demand dropped and operational cost increased, many employees were concerned about whether their jobs were safe. And even though MS tried to avoid factory closures in Sri Lanka, the uncertainty in the market created fear and instability. The second point is furlough introduced by the MS Holding, and uh, I mean MS introduced furlough systems. This means workers were temporarily asked not to work, but they were still paid a portion of their salary. This helped MS reduce operational cost while still protecting employees from full job loss. But it also created anxiety because employees were unsure when normal operations would resume. So the third workforce challenge that we have is layoffs abroad. I mean, in Haiti and India. So while MS avoided mass layoffs in Sri Lanka, the company did lay off workers in some of its overseas operations, including Haiti and India. This showed that the crisis had a global effect on MS and contributed to overall workforce instability within the group. And the number four challenge is skilled worker retention challenge. So another major issue was retaining skilled workers with transport shortages, inflation, and long working hours due to reduced staff availability. Many skilled workers considered switching jobs or migrating abroad. This increased turnover risk and added pressure on MAS to offer more support and incentive. And the fifth one that we can see is reduced overtime and uh, worker precarity. So because orders dropped, MS also had to cut back on overtime, and for many apparel workers, overtime pay is essential to meet basic living expenses. So even though jobs were still there, the reduction in income made workers feel economically insecure. And at the number six is mental and social impact. The economic crisis also caused a significant mental and social strain on employees. Rising food prices, transportation, there was shortage of transportation, and long power cuts made daily life difficult, and this stress was reflected in the workplace as well. And MS had to increase welfare support like transport assistance and meal subsidies to help stabilize the workforce. And the last one, as a workforce challenge that MS faced, is union pressure and labor negotiation. And finally, because of the challenging condition, labor unions became more active. There was increasing pressure on MS to negotiate fair wages, ensure safe working conditions, and provide better job security. These negotiations also added complexity to managing operation during the crisis. So overall, in the 2022 economic crisis created a combination of financial, social, and emotional challenges for MS employees, and MS Holdings had to balance business survival with employee welfare. And although the company took several protective measures, the workforce still experienced significant hardship and uncertainty. Yeah, thank you. That's all from my side.
Thanks, Tulip. I'm Anurag. I'll take over from here. So, Mars focused on two big areas to stay resilient. First, on the financial side, they built flexibility in their supply chain by using global network of 52 factories across 17 countries. They also started sourcing local raw material to cut down on the foreign exchange risk and kept pushing sustainability projects like recycling and ocean strainer. On the workforce side, Mars made sure employees felt secure by pledging no permanent closure in Sri Lanka, paying workers during the temporary shutdowns, and introducing mental health and wellness programs. They even worked with the unions for wage adjustment and created retention plans to keep skilled workers from leaving. Looking back, we realized how risky it is to depend on just one country for operation. It makes the whole system vulnerable. That's why supply chain diversification is so important. We also learned that sustainability and using local raw material are not just good for the environment, they help reduce dependency on and improve resilience. And finally, protecting workers is not optional, it's essential for long-term stability and success. So to wrap things up, Mars went through some tough times with operational, financial, and workforce challenges. But instead of crumbling, they showed resilience by using strategies like mergers, furloughs, and diversifying their operations. The crisis really highlighted how fragile Sri Lanka's apparel supply chain can be. Yet Mars stayed committed and acted as a stabilizing force. The big takeaway here is simple. For long-term success, companies need diversification, sustainability, and strong worker protection. That's all for today. Thank you.